this episode, we will hear how directors are increasingly required to stay abreast of critical emerging sustainability frameworks and standards, and to prioritise both compliance and strategic alignment.
I think companies have been struggling over the years with the whole reporting and all kinds of qualifications on their sustainability efforts. At this moment, there are around 650 different matrices in the world how to measure how sustainable a company is. And that's a nightmare for companies. That's a nightmare even for the audience who want to deal with it, public at large or NGOs or investors or whatever. Nobody can understand and follow and distinguish 650 different matrices. So therefore, we want to harmonize and converge into the CSRD in Europe, into ISSB in many other countries in the world, into the SEC regulations in the US, etc. It's still too much because there are still 5 harmonization initiatives in the world, and I'd rather have one.
At the board level, it's different. Like there, we're talking much more around the strategy, the long-term strategy, and where organizations need to position themselves and how they're going to get to meet the commitments that they have made publicly. So you want to be seeing, real concrete plans with interim targets, with accountabilities, with, ongoing reporting, so that we know sort of where we stand and where we need to move. And along with that, I would say, I'm seeing, good scenario planning at the top board level, aligned with the strategic processes, which again, I think is really important when we're talking long-term, big impacts, going out decades. So what I'm seeing at, one of my boards is quarterly, they're giving us a dashboard. And the dashboard gives us, sort of long-term targets, the short-term targets, where they stand against those targets and what the challenges are around it.
I think it's safe to say that if there's something you should focus on as a board this year, it's truly to get on top of the step change in disclosure requirements, whether it's at the regional level or whether it's the new series of global climate and sustainability disclosure requirements. And needless to say, this poses a fundamental, challenge to many boards and to many companies. Both in terms of how you evaluate your risk and how you understand and develop your risk profile. And how do you actually move from only thinking about it again as a transitional risk, but also how to consider the physical risk and making sure that you have the right balance across your risk assumptions. But then also to prepare your actual machinery for this. And perhaps this is where the biggest challenge comes in, to actually understand how your current audit systems, how your current reporting structures are set up or not for this revolution that is taking place. And secondly, to also try to understand, once this information is out there, how are other stakeholders, including markets, going to react and evaluate?
And there's no doubt there's been a massive increase in reporting requirements and standards, literally in the last year even, but certainly in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that it has challenged boards. I think that we all got our heads around TCFD, and that took some doing because it was a requirement and a type of reporting that we probably didn't have familiarity with. And they may be operating in many countries. And that we just simplify. And also we get the data architecture such that we can report once and it can deliver against a number of the different disclosure requirements rather than having to keep creating different sets of data. Because I think the danger with it is at the moment that if climate action becomes a reporting thing, a compliance thing, rather than a business innovation, opportunity, and risk management, proper business commercial issue, then we are going to get delayed. And I suppose the one reporting framework that I would commend to everybody, and I did work on it, so I'm a bit biased here, but is the Transition Plan Task Force framework, because that gives you a guidance. The TPT framework gives a guide to how to create transition plans, both at a generic sector neutral level, but also at a sector level.
You always face the challenge currently that there are different ESG worlds, and the importance of those also has different just size or height. And I think that is something wherever we move to one approach, it is extremely helpful. Not only for one company, this is not about being lazy from a corporate or from a board perspective. I think it also increases ultimately comparability. So also for any investor, any bank, any analyst, it is easier when you can compare the KPIs that one group, one corporate brings to the outside world and the other, and they are based on similar standards. As said, similar to US GAAP, IFRS, or some other global standards. I think it would be great if we here have fewer and more agreed upon. But as I said at the very beginning, I think we're moving into the right direction currently.
As board members, we suffer tremendously from two things. One you mentioned, which is we just have to get the compliance right. If we get the compliance right, we're not going to be held liable and we're doing fine. The other thing that boards do is they look at the numbers of the previous quarter, the previous year versus the year prior to that. That's looking in the rearview mirror. If you look in the rearview mirror while you're driving an automobile, there could be a deer there could be an elephant, there could be anything right in front of the car. What board members should be doing is looking straight out through the windshield, unfogged, and looking for the deer that's going to jut across the road, or the elephant that was standing there for years and years. That's the board's job.